Hey guys, how y'all doing? You know, in talking with my guys that I consult with in the moving business, I realize that they have a certain problem that they don't know really how to deal with. And I found out that this problem in my research on this um, is widespread. There's a lot of people that don't know how to deal with this. And the problem that we all don't have an easy time handling is the complaints or the customer scams, the scams that the customers will do. So do you have a way, do you have formulas, do you have processes, rules, systems in place to handle scam customers? Well, if you don't, then let me share with you a little bit of some of my experiences and some of what I found online. All right, guys, how you guys doing? This is Jay Burnham with the Real Jay Burnham Show. Today we're going to be talking about dealing with scam customers. Let's face it, you know, in all of our industries, especially my industry, moving industries, there are a lot of movers out there that will scam their customers. They will charge them, they'll hold their stuff hostages, and we get all these scams that come from the companies. We see them on the Facebook every day about how this company is scamming it, how Comcast is overcharging us, how the oil companies and gas companies are gouging us at the pump, and so on and so forth. And we see all the things. We see the entire lineage of scams towards the businesses, like how the business is scamming. But what we don't recognize and what we don't acknowledge internally is that there are customers that are going to try to scam us. So how do we, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, how do we handle them? How do we protect ourselves from those customers that want to scam us? And that's all very valid questions. All right. First of all, before you make a determination that this customer is trying to scam you, you've got to basically really do your homework and talk with the customer. And in talking with the customer, you'll find out whether they're trying to scam you or not, based on your experience. But you can't just automatically, if a customer's upset, they leave a customer review or something that's poor, you don't want to think, oh, this guy's just trying to scam me. You're going to have to sit down and actually listen to the customer, let them vent if they're upset, let them just yell and scream and holler, and just let them get it off their chest. And then, you know, through different questions and comments, find out what's their real problem and handle the real problem. I've got great videos on that. There are videos on that, otherwheres online, of how to handle a customer that's upset. All great information, and you should definitely consume that. But what happens now that you've done that, you did that time, and you've determined that this customer is going to scam you or trying to scam you? How do you handle that? What are your processes? What are your rules? And I have found in my business, in my almost 10 years of being in the moving company, there are 4 basic types of scammers. And I'm going to go over the 4 basic types and tell you some of the remedies to handle that, okay? The first thing is when a customer, you talk to the customer, you did your estimate, you told the customer how much you charge, then they book you, you do the service, and now they're saying, hey, wait a minute, this is more than what we agreed to, this isn't what we said. Basically, they're saying that you quoted them at a lower price than what your rates really are. How do you handle that? Well, first of all, you could definitely do the quote over the phone. And that's where most of your problems is. If you don't follow up with after your phone conversation and you don't have something in writing, it's not true. If it's not in writing, it's not true. All right, guys, hang on one second. Sorry about that. Anyway, so if it's not in writing, it's not true. So the first thing you got to do is once you've got done talking with your customer, you should send them some sort of estimation form saying exactly what you are, you know, step by step, what you're going to offer and what you're not going to offer, and what your prices are for them. If you have a system where they can sign it and send it back to you, so much the better. Or you should have them send you an email acknowledging that they got it and have understood it. This will prevent a lot of problems because then you can say, hey, look, I did discuss with you our prices here, or I did discuss with you the services we were going to provide. You agreed to it. You sent an email back. You signed it, etc. You know, then they don't have a leg to stand on. Another thing is before you do any kind of service or provide any kind of product, um, you have a receipt or a bill of lading or some sort of bill of contract or something that lays out exactly the services you're going to provide and exactly how much you're going to provide those services for, and any guarantees and so on and so forth that may or may not be applicable. If you have those in place before you even start your job, then the customer can complain and say, well, you said this or you said that, or blah, blah, blah. You know, it's very easy to say that. A lot of customers, and let me retract a little. Sometimes the customers don't hear exactly what they hear, right? They hear what they want to hear. They don't fully hear. They don't know. You know, maybe there's a bad phone connection, what have you. Sometimes these errors they do occur. They're not necessarily out to try to scam you. So make sure, like you said before, make sure you really understand. But if they do have this, you can always have it in writing and have some sort of acknowledgement from your customer. If you have a contract, make sure that they have signed the contract before you start service. That is imperative. That way, you know, if they say, well, that's not what I agreed, and they try to sue you, blah, 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 you know, what do you do about that? You can then, you know, if you have to take it to court, you can say, hey, look, they signed the contract. Here it is. Here's what they agreed to pay. They did not pay it. You know, so on and so forth. On my contracts, I actually have, I delineate all this stuff out. I actually have, if they fail to pay, that if I can't collect, I will actually I'll take them to court and sue them for 3 times the amount plus legal fees. And it's on the contract, and it has held up in court. So even though it might not be standard, I have had it in court where if they don't pay me, I will charge them 3 times the amount, and plus any legal or attorney fees. And it has held up in courts, and they can't say, well, here's the contract, you signed it. You know, you don't have any leg to stand on. All right. So that's handling for that situation. Now, for you guys that actually do services inside the home, another customer scam that customers will do, especially renters, I have found for the moving business, is that they'll say you damaged some walls or carpet or something, and what they're looking for is you to pay for the cleaning of their apartment or painting of the walls or the new carpet or whatever, so that they can get their deposit back, and you get stuck with the bill of cleaning the apartment. You know, it happens. It happens. It doesn't happen often, but it happens enough not to be rare. So what do? Again, a good thing to do on something like that is to definitely have your contract and what your guarantees and what you will guarantee and what you won't guarantee is in place. Also, if you can, take pictures of the place and the furniture and the stuff before you've done any services. So if you notice that there's holes in the wall, make sure that you've taken pictures of that and you categorized them and listed those out, so that, and have the customer sign it before you start. That way, if you see like you've got multiple damages to the wall, they can't come back and say, well, it was your guys that did it. Whether you're laying carpet, doing moving, painting, interior decorating, whatever, you can't. That way, you protect yourself in that, right? If you're a maid or whatever, you know, even if you're car detailing, you would want to check out and make sure all the damages in the cars are listed and the customer is aware of the damages before you begin work. That way, you're not held liable for any damages that may occur. Right. Also, you might want to, if that does occur, you might want to have an expert that you can hire to go and handle this, or take a look at it and make adjudication whether it was caused by movers or no. This is definitely old stuff. Another thing you want to do is have damage claim forms or some sort of forms that they have to fill out saying that you damaged them, and if you did damage it, fine, then take care of it. But if they didn't, have these fill out the damage claim forms, but also have them include very clear pictures that you can download from your computer or have them actually send you an actual real pictures. Don't have them email, don't have them text you the pictures so you can't download them or whatever. Make sure that you can have access to them on your computer and you can print them out. Uh, just to tell you a little bit of what happened to me one time is I did a move from a guy from DeWitt, Michigan down to Monroe, Michigan. We did it. We charged him. We gave him a price. It was a flat rate price. We went out and did it, and then he refused to pay me. Right? He refused to pay me. We got that sorted out. Told him, if he didn't pay me, we couldn't, then we're not going to honor any of the damage claims. So he paid us, and then he sent in a damage claim, and you could see that the damages were old. You can actually see that the damages were old. Like he said that the damage to this wall where the plaster had fallen off, you could see that it was waterlogged and mildewed and right in the pictures. And you could see that it was old. My guys might have bumped it and knocked the plaster down, but that plaster was going to fall down at the slightest touch anyway. So you can see that sometimes this damage is already pre-existing, and you just want to make sure that you're not going to be blamed for it or made responsible for it. All right? So make sure that you have an expert to go and take a look at it. In lieu of an expert, make sure that the customer sends you clear, concise photos of everything. That they take close-ups and far-aways, that they show not just a close-up of a thing, but they get the full picture of it as well. But it's got to be really clear, really showing the damages. You do those things, you do those little tips and tricks, usually this goes away. The third scam is the customer leaves you a bad review in hopes that they get a refund. Maybe you did do a good job, or maybe you did. Maybe you said something. Maybe you looked at them crossways. I don't know. If it's a legitimate bad review, then you should go out of your way to make sure it's handled. But if it is something that is completely not your fault, and you still try to make it right with the customer, how do you handle this? Well, if they leave you a bad review, that is actually liable. And if it can be proven that they have said something illegal to damage your reputation or your company's reputation, by leaving a bad review when it's not valid is hurting your reputation. You can take them to court. It's a little harder. You got to actually prove it. So you got to be able to make sure you can prove it. But that is recourse. The other recourse is to make sure that you document everything and you present that documentation as your rebuttal for the bad review. If you have a bad review, almost every place allows you to rebut that, refute that, and you can present all the evidence and you can give date and time, but make sure you keep track and you put specifics in. Like, look, I called this customer on such and such a day at such and such a time. I spoke with so-and-so, and with us is what we talked about. And I told them what I would do and what I could do, and they cursed at me and so on and so forth. By leaving that and leaving out the emotion out of the rebuttal, but making sure that you enter in all the facts and down to the detail, you'll actually be looked upon. Your rebuttal will be read, believe it or not. And that rebuttal will actually go to serve to prove basically that this customer is a scamming customer. So you can just do that. Other than that, there's really not a heck of a lot you can do if they do that. Maybe in some cases you might actually have to just give them the refund. You might have to just suck it up, but don't give them a refund until they've actually changed it, or you get something in writing that they're going to change it. Preferably some sort of legal document. Say, I will give you this refund, but in that instead, you must change your review of this company to reflect it, so that it's not a bad review. It could be a moderate review, doesn't have to be a good review, but that they change it before you give them any money. Because what they're out to do is they're trying to get your services for free. They're going to use every little piddly ass excuse to make sure that they get your service or product for free. They don't want to pay for it. You know, and it just happens. So whatever you do, make sure that you're documenting your stuff, okay? And lastly, customers that just refuse to pay you. I talked about this in a couple of moments ago about what I did. What I do in my business is I have a contract, which we also call a bill of lading, which lays out exactly the services we're going to provide, the prices that we're going to do it at, the times we start, the times we finish, who are the people that were doing the job, etc. But I also have in a box in bright red letters on my contract, they said, if you refuse to pay, then I will take you to court and I will charge you 3 times the amount plus attorney's fees. And like I said before, I have taken people to court, unfortunately, for this, and it has held up in court. So I have gotten my full amount from people who have tried to do this. So make sure it's in your contract that if they refuse, you know, obviously you don't want to cause some scene. You can call the cops, but all the cops are going to do is say, hey, this is a civil matter, and they're going to walk away because they're too lazy to do their job. Because quite honestly, they don't want to get in the middle of a thing. Even though this is fraud, this is a complete and utter fraud. If someone refuses to pay, it's fraud, and it is criminally illegal. Cops won't want to handle it. They'll say it's a civil matter because they're too lazy or they're too ignorant about their job to actually do something about it. So it'll be up to you. And the way you need to protect yourself is you don't want to argue, you don't want to cause any kind of violent scene or large commotions. You know, you don't want to put your guys, if they're out there doing the job for you, you don't want to put them in any kind of awkward positions where they're having to be a mediator between you and the customer. That's just not. Just take them to court. Just make sure it's in your contract and take them to court. If it's a legitimate attempt by this customer to scam you. Now, if they're trying to withhold payment, make sure that that it wasn't something your guys did, right? And if it was something, explain to them, hey, look, we screwed up. We will make it right. We have a process for that. But before we can do that, you do have to give us our full payment, and then we'll go through this procedure and get you any kind of reimbursement that may be valid. But make sure, if that is the case, you actually do that. All right. But if they're just trying to scam you, your only recourse really is make sure that you have it in writing and take them to court. And if you have to take them to court, you want to make sure that the time that it takes to do all the court procedures is paid. You know, you're losing money. So that's why I personally put 3 times the amount. I think Michigan says that you can do 2 times, but if it's on your contract, it will be upheld because it's now a part of the contract, right? So that's just some of the way. Now, these are just 4 different examples, but I found there's a lot of different nuances to some of the scams that the customers will do, but they all fall within these 4 different categories. And if you put it in place, in your business in place, your guys won't scam you. They won't get a chance to scam you because you will have protected yourself from them, right? Unfortunately, there are just a few bad apples. This isn't going to happen often, but it will happen enough that you want to make sure. And if you're a brand new company, you're just starting out, you might not be able to afford. I remember this happened to me a couple times when I first started my business, and it was hard trying to make payroll and pay some bills. It really caused a lot of problems. I figured it out, but sometimes if it's a large bill, this could be the make or break of your business. All right. So make sure that you have it in writing, and if you have to, take them to court if that's the final recourse. But just protect yourself as well, right? Use these tips and tricks, and you should be safe. All right, guys. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what kind of tips or tricks that you use. If there's something you've come across that I don't know about, I'd love to hear it. Leave me a comment below. Also, give me a thumbs up if you like the video. I love those thumbs ups. And if you hated the video, give me a thumbs down. I love the haters too, all right? Because it tells me, hey, I'm on the right path. Also, make sure you share this with all your family and friends. And please, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel. If you're watching this video and not subscribed, subscribe to this channel. All right, guys, thank you. Love you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.